Hello everyone. I hope you're all doing well. I hope you're having a great start to the beginning of your year. Today is going to be just chatting about last year's makeup statistics. So last year I did things a little differently on my channel. I backed off from a lot of my Project Pan projects. I took myself off of a beauty budget and I just wanted to let myself enjoy my hobby. But I decided that since I was doing that, I was going to track most of the things in terms of things that I was using, things that I was purchasing, all the numbers. And I admit I had a lot of fun last year just reaching for whatever I wanted. I took the pressure off of myself and it felt really nice to just enjoy my collection. But I am going to have to make some changes this year, I think, to my approach in certain ways based on the data. So let's talk about the data. Oh, but first of all, today's tea of the day is one of my most favorite teas ever. This is Genmai Cha. Genmai Cha is green tea that also has toasted rice in it. And you can see from the little video that sometimes the toasted rice actually pops and it just makes the tea taste very roasty and extremely cozy and sometimes even a little bit buttery. Oh my goodness, just what a delight. So one of the things I wanted to track last year was blushes, just because I have a lot of them and I wanted to see if I went through them all, if I managed to touch each blush throughout the year. And it took me the majority of the year, but I did do that just by naturally reaching for them in my shop, my stash. So that makes me very happy. I do have a large blush collection and I do tend to wear them seasonally, hence why it took me till like the end of the year to get through everything. And blush is just my favorite. So I'm really happy that that's the way everything happened there with blush. So let's move on to eyeshadow singles. So in terms of singles, I'm not just talking about like pans of eyeshadow. I'm also referring to all of my cream eyeshadows, little potted eyeshadows, eyeshadow sticks, liquid eyeshadows, things like that. I have 181 of those in my collection. Last year, I used 69 of those. That's only 38%. So looking at that, I definitely need to do some sort of a project pulling in my single eyeshadows just to make myself use them. It's just, I don't know, I had trouble reaching for them last year. So I am gonna have a project coming out for that. I think around the 15th of this month, I'll be doing some sort of no pan left behind featuring singles. So that's going to be fun because looking at that number, that's pretty disappointing for last year. And my singles include some of my very favorite eyeshadows in my entire collection. So there's no reason why they should be neglected. So, you know, that was eye-opening. Moving on to palettes, I have 48 of those. I used 39 of them, so that's 81%. Again, that's just reaching for the items that I wanted to reach for. This might help me choose ones to declutter, even though if it might be a really good palette, if I'm just choosing other palettes over them, they could probably get better use in someone else's house. So some of those I probably will declutter that I didn't reach for in an upcoming declutter video. But I also, this year, I'm going to try to be more intentional in my shop, my stash, to pull palettes that I think I'll want to use. What ended up happening last year was when I would pull a palette and then just use that one for like 2 weeks, which was fun. I really liked that. I getting good use out of each palette, but that meant that there were just many that I didn't use. So at this point of the video is where I would show you any new pans in the last quarter, and I did have 2 pans to share. So first of all, this one. This is my Salt New York bronzer. I hit pan on this in December, I think. And oh, I have enjoyed this product so much, and I'm very happy about that big giant juicy pan. And then I also hit pan in a highlighter, which is a big deal for me. This is NARS Fort de France, and I think this is the oldest highlighter in my collection, so very nice to hit pan on it. But that's it as far as pans in the last quarter. I just realized I skipped a portion of the video. I'm like, I'm missing something. I was going to mention my #1 used product from each category that I was tracking last year. So in terms of blushes, and I was keeping track of not just single blushes, but also palettes, and actually my top reached for blush was this palette from NARS. I couldn't believe this. I reached for this 8 times last year, which is not that many. Oh, and by the way, in terms of most reached for, I'm not counting products that were in project pans, because those obviously were reached for way more. I'm talking about ones that I just pulled from my collection. So this is the NARS Full Access Cheek Palette. It has the Laguna bronzer and 3 blushes, and I reached for this 8 times, which is more than any of my other blushes. I really do enjoy the NARS powder formula. I can see why they have been popular for so long. I have now been hooked by them as well. My #1 used palette last year, not a surprise, this was in my favorites for the year, the Lorac Noir palette. Again, this is not counting palettes that were in projects. So I reached for this one 6 times, which is not that many. When you look at that, it's really not that many. But that is what the numbers are when you have a large collection and you're trying to rotate through everything. So 6 times for this is actually pretty good. And I highly recommend this. It is lovely. And then as far as single shadows go, I actually had a several way tie. This is Sydney Grace Peace. I reached for this 4 times. Also 4 times Maybelline Nude Glow. I should probably give you guys swatches. So I don't know if this was recently discontinued, you guys. I tried to find it on Amazon. I couldn't find it. So I don't know what's going on. It's ridiculous if they did decide to discontinue that. Look how pretty it is. I should swatch Sydney Grace Peace for you. Oh, it's so beautiful. Also used 4 times from Moira. This is the Lucent Cream Shadow in the shade Jupiter. So even though I used it 4 times, I did not put this in favorites for last year, even though I tried this last year, just because this one does crease on me. But look how pretty it is. Oh, it's gorgeous. Oh, it's absolutely gorgeous. If you don't have problems with shadows creasing on you, I would absolutely recommend that. And then also used 4 times Urban Decay MoonDust. I picked this up at the end of last year, so if I had this earlier in the year, I would have used it a lot more than just 4 times. But this is Space Cowboy, which I wanted to put on everything. Obviously I didn't because I only used it 4 times, but I wanted to. So those are my most used singles that weren't in projects. Looking at something that is most used and it only has a few uses, it does make one realize how much makeup one has. But I'm not gonna try and beat myself up about it because I enjoy trying all the things. It's a fun little hobby for me. Okay, so now we come to the part of the video that's a bit more painful. I'm gonna talk about empties versus purchases for the entire year. I do have a video coming up where I'll talk through each of the makeup empties, but for now I'll just tell you that last year I used up 32 products. That's about average for me. I think last year I used up a few more than that, but I'm usually around there in terms of numbers. However, I purchased a lot more this past year. Like I told you, I took myself off of restrictions and I just kind of allowed myself to talk myself out of things or talk myself into things as I went along, and I definitely let myself pick things up last year. Now for one thing, that was really enjoyable, but I also decluttered a lot of things. There was many things I tried and immediately gave away, and I have a few more things I held on to, but I think I will declutter them in the upcoming declutter. So take the following number with a grain of salt. Not all of this is in my collection, but according to my numbers, I purchased exactly 100 products last year. That is so much, but I do have a breakdown for you. So I purchased 1 setting spray, 2 concealers, 2 primers, 5 foundations. One of those I immediately gave away due to the wrong shade, and I have another one that, again, it's not quite the right shade. I'm probably going to declutter that very soon here. I purchased 9 eyeshadow palettes last year, which I think that's pretty good compared to years past. I purchased a lot more, so 9 is okay. I purchased 2 eyeliners, 7 mascaras, 2 bronzers, 11 highlighters. Now that number is way up. Just this year I was really into highlighter. I also purchased 6 face palettes this year, which I never used to buy them. I've got 6 of them this year. One category that I did a lot better in this year compared to other years was eyeshadow singles. By single, again, I'm talking about cream or potted shadows in addition to, you know, your normal eyeshadow singles. I only got 7 of them this year, so that's a lot better. I purchased 2 eyebrow products, 1 eyeshadow primer, and then we come to the 2 categories where I purchased a lot of things. So lip products, I have down 20 items, which that's actually startling to me because I look at my lip gloss drawer and I feel like I've been using up lip gloss and not really replacing, but obviously I must have purchased some lip glosses. I think it was more like I was purchasing things in other categories, like some liquid lipsticks, some regular lipsticks, and not necessarily glosses. I think that's probably where my confusion is coming in. But anyway, added up, it's 20 of them. And then, of course, blush is the category where I purchased the most things, and that would be 22 items. I must say, looking at my blush collection, I do feel contentment at this point. There are definitely blush formulas that I still want to try, but I don't feel that intense need to try all the blush anymore. Oftentimes blushes come out and I'm okay with not trying them. So hopefully next year I can not buy so many blushes. So anyway, you can hear in most of those categories, it wasn't like I was going crazy, but you add up those numbers and it adds up to 100. So I'm gonna have to do something different in the coming year in terms of purchasing again. One of the reasons I took myself off a beauty budget was because I wanted to give myself permission to purchase things to review on my channel which I did do some of last year. And those videos for me actually did very well. So I guess I'm not really sure if I want to put necessarily rules in place again for my purchasing in the coming year. If there's something that I want to review, I will probably still get it. I don't intend on going quite so crazy with highlighters next year, so that should help. Anyway, I hope that all these stats were interesting. I tend to enjoy the stats, so thank you for joining me here. Have you ever done a year like this where you tracked your usage and saw exactly what it was that you used and how often you use them? If you did, let us know down in the comments. How did that go? It was a lot of work, but I found it very interesting. I don't think I'm going to keep up with it this year. The thing I'll be tracking the most this year, again, is the eyeshadow singles in my upcoming project. So again, thank you guys so much for watching. I will stop rambling. We'll see you again very soon in the next video. Bye guys.